about chilling down a cocktail? What is the right temperature for your drink? Welcome to Common Man Cocktails. I'm your host, Derrick Schommer. Today we're going to talk about the proper temperature for cocktails. If this is your first time here, what you're going to find is that Common Man Cocktails is here to teach you about how to make a good drink. It doesn't always have to be a proper pre-prohibition cocktail. It doesn't always have to be a college cocktail. It can fall someplace in between. And one of the things that I know a lot of our audience has been talking about is the educational stuff that's really intriguing to them. I could tell from the views, I could tell from the reactions, so I'm going to keep dedicating Fridays to very educational focused videos. Wednesday's gonna definitely be a cocktail. Mondays might be reviews, cocktails, or other weird craziness. So let's talk about ice. Let's talk about a little bit of dilution. The best scientific rule you can follow in cocktails if you want to do anything right is to remember this. There is no chilling without dilution. There's really no way to get your cocktail to a specific temperature without diluting it. Sure, I guess you could put it in the freezer for a while, but you're probably going to be thirsty, and if you're serving other people, they're probably going to be pissed off. It takes 80 times the amount of energy to dilute a single gram of ice, as it does to raise a single gram of ice up 1 degree. It takes a lot of energy to melt ice, so there's some best practices you should probably follow to kind of help it along. Now, you've probably heard me or other whiskey connoisseurs or other cocktail connoisseurs or spirit connoisseurs talk about a splash of water really opening up a specific spirit. It's not like wine. Wine, you can use oxygen, you swirl it around, you aerate it. I have an aeration video up here. You aerate it, and what that does is that helps bring out that aroma. It helps to dull some of the tannins. That doesn't work with a spirit. You can swirl it all day long. It doesn't matter. But you add a splash of water to that hydrogen, the bonds that happen, that basically tear apart and let those aromas rise to the top, creates a huge bouquet of flavor. And that's great for gins and anything that has a lot of aroma. Probably even more important for vodka, because vodka doesn't have much aroma to begin with. Give it a chance, dude. How do you bring it out? Do you splash water in your cocktail? Well, that's kind of counterproductive. But if you're melting your cocktail with ice, you're going to get the proper dilution. I don't care if you're shaking it or if you're gonna stir it. As a matter of fact, this entire video is just gonna be about stirring. But then I got this other idea. So if you wanna see a video all about how to properly stir a cocktail, leave a comment. So water plays a big part in your taste experience. Why? Because aroma is a big part of the taste experience. Believe it or not. If you don't believe it, you're stupid. So if you're stirring a cocktail, the best thing to do is to make sure your little mixing glass is already cold. Run it under cold water. Put it in the refrigerator. Put it in the freezer. Do something. But don't let it get warm or hot or room temperature, because it's going to suck away the chill from your drink as you're stirring. If you're shaking with a glass, make sure your glass is chilled and not so dirty. This is one reason a lot of people like to shake with tin on tin. Metal does not suck as much of the cold out of your drink. It gets cold faster, and if it gets cold faster, that means it has less thermal mass. Or at least that's what I've been told. So, when you do it this way and you shake it, both sides are pretty chill, so the warmth doesn't get into the drink. If you're stirring a drink, stir for 30 to 45 seconds. That's typically going to get you the chill factor you're going to need without having to use a thermometer to make sure it's the right temperature. If you're shaking a drink, shake it for 10 to 15 seconds. Because shaking's more aggressive and the ice is breaking up and it's moving along within the liquid so much faster, it's going to chill down faster. And not only does that change some of your dilution and your temperature, but that means chilling a drink with a shake versus a stir is going to give you two cocktails that aren't exactly the same temperature, and that's okay. I would chill your glass before you use it, even if it's going to have ice in it. You want to give your cocktail the best chance possible to stay cold. The best way to do that is not to put it into a warm cup. And while we're talking about dilution and ice, when you're working with ice, don't just force the ice cubes out of the ice tray. Put the ice tray on the table and let it sit for like 5 minutes, and maybe 10, until it gets a sheen of ice on the top. That's when you know it's ready. And that little sheen of ice, as you take those cubes, shake it so that the water doesn't go into your cocktail. Because there is no chilling without dilution. That's already diluted. The chill has happened over there. You don't want the water in your drink because it's not going to make the drink colder. The melt water from dilution makes it colder. So what you're going to need to do is shake that ice off and put it into your cocktail. And if it keeps that nice sheen of ice on it, it's less likely to crack when you put it into your glass and add a liquid to it. Let's talk about some ideal temperatures. That's what you all want to know. What temperature should my drink be at? What's the secret sauce? What's the magic number? There's no magic number, but there are some good guidances that you could follow. I like to follow some of the people that do this for a living and do it really well. And those people are people like Dave Arnold. And what Dave Arnold suggested after his scientific experiments, because that's what he does, and seeing how people react to specific things, is he picks a couple key temperature ranges. But before we get into that, if you're wondering, what the heck is this? This is a homemade gin. If you want to know how to make this gin rapidly infused with an easy whipper, go to the Craft Cocktail channel. Link above. Watch that video. It'll teach you how to make your own homemade gin. Anyway, shaking cocktails should be between 14 and 23 degrees Fahrenheit, or minus 10 C, minus 5 C. That's Celsius. You know, the one that actually is kind of makes more sense. For stirring cocktails, Dave Arnold had suggested something slightly different. Instead of 14 Fahrenheit to 23 Fahrenheit, he says 19 to 32. So it's warmer. Most stirred cocktails will be warmer. They're not going to have the aggressive shake. And if you look at how a stirred cocktail typically sits in your glass, a chilled glass mind you, it tends to be a little bit sharper, a little bit more potent, because it's usually a spirit-forward drink. So the dilution is going to be a little bit less, it's going to be a little bit more striking, but there's enough water vibrancy to bring out that aroma. Your Sazeracs, your gin martinis, you want to get that lavender, you want to get that Campari flavor, boom, dilution. Stirred cocktails in Celsius, minus 7 to 9.5 C. Pretty simple, right? Little bit warmer than your shaken cocktails, but it doesn't end there. If you're working with brandy or whiskey and you're going to serve it to a guest, you probably want it to be in a different temperature range. This is between 53 Fahrenheit and 62 Fahrenheit, or 12 to 17 Celsius. Champagne, cava, bubblies, sparkling wines, all that stuff is at 42 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 6 Celsius. Straight shots, 60 to 64 Fahrenheit, or 16 Celsius to 18 Celsius. If you serve your spirits or your cocktails too cold, people are going to hate you, or that's going to actually hurt them. If you go too cold, what you're going to do is create a cocktail that's dull and boring. The reason is your senses and your palate get a little bit numb when you get a little bit too cold of a drink on your tongue. Shuts them down, cools down the palate, and you're like, you're done. Now you're just serving what could have been a bright and brilliant and awesome cocktail, but you just dulled it down because you thought it would be better to serve it to them extra cold. And if you're not sure, just use a thermometer. Stir it a few times, shake it, see what the temperatures are for your average shake to see if it falls within that realm. Speaking of ice, have you ever got a glass that's got this big circle sphere of ice, crystal clear maybe, and then like 2 fingers worth of scotch or bourbon or whatever, and you got that big ball of ice or that square, and you're like, this is awesome. It looks awesome, but it's actually doing your drink harm because there's way more ice in a lot of those cases above the liquid line, because the ice is way above the wash line. So if you have a liquid here and your ice is up here, what's all the ice at the top doing, you think? The ice chills that warm air around it and it dilutes. Well, all that meltwater is now going into your drink. So it's actually diluting your spirit down more, but it's not applying the chill. The air, the energy around the air has already absorbed the cold. All you're getting is the side effect of the water dripping into your drink. So if you're going to serve or drink any type of really cool spirit or cocktail and your ice is popping up over the top, all you're actually doing is over diluting your drink. What you really need is to get that ice to be at the wash line or below so it sits in the drink. Therefore, all of the chill that's coming off of your ice, that energy is going in your cocktail and keeping your cocktail nice and cold while also diluting. Now go click on one of those 2 videos. Continue the adventure of education and cocktail creation here at Common Man Cocktails. And if you think that's wicked awesome, check the recipe book below. You can go to homecocktailmenu.com where both my wife and I publish ebooks all about cocktails. Get some easy and basic cocktail recipes that you can reference on your phone in PDF format or on your computer at home when you're serving guests. That's it. We're teaching you how to drink.